This is Alicia Curran, and this is my oral presentation for Drama 15. I need to apologize because I am recording myself. My cameraman was called into work, so I hope I stay in view the whole time. Anyways, for my presentation, I saw M. Butterfly in San Francisco at the Ghost Street Theater. It's a very small kind of community theater, very similar to LMC's Little Theater. Custom-made theater company put on the production. We read Golden Child in FOB, also by David Henry Hwang. I know I read a little bit about it when we were studying the subject of Asian American theater in class, but in case you didn't, I wanted to give a brief summary of M. Butterfly. The main character's name was Rene Gallimard. He is a French diplomat living in China during the time of the Vietnam War. He has a 20-year affair with Song Li-ling, who is an opera singer. Rene believes that it's a woman, but it turns out he's really a man, and he's a spy working for the Chinese government. Anyhow, so in the opening of the play, Rene Gallimard is in a jail cell saying, in order to understand the story, it kind of starts at the end and goes back. In order to understand his story, you need to understand the opera Madame Butterfly, which this sort of parallels to. It kind of is an inspiration to Rene Gallimard in a way. Madame Butterfly is about a Western man who goes to China and has a relationship and marries a Chinese woman, and they have a child together, and he leaves her to go back to the West, and she believes he's going to come back, and she waits for him for a long time. She's totally distraught without him. She finally comes to terms that her husband isn't returning for her. She kills herself. So Rene Gallimard saw this opera in China, and the lead singer of the opera was Song Ling, the woman he winds up having the affair with. Slowly they meet, and slowly their relationship becomes romantic. They even have a child together, and the whole time she's passing on information that Rene gives her to her government. And then because this information is getting leaked, the tactics that Rene develops for the French government aren't working at all in the war, and he winds up being sent back to France, where later he's arrested for passing on sensitive information, and he finds out that indeed he was in love with man who is a spy. And he says he has a hard time coming to terms with that himself. The line between what was real and what is fantasy is very hard for him to distinguish, and he himself doesn't really understand how he was able to have a relationship with somebody for 20 years and never know it was a man. So he calls Song Ling his butterfly. It's a perfect lie that was destroyed, and in the end he does also wind up killing himself, much like in Madame Butterfly the woman did as well. What I wanted to discuss in this presentation, much like the other books or plays we read by David Henry Hwang, like FOB and Golden Child, there's this theme of East versus West and traditional and modern. In FOB, the Eastern culture, or the people who are fresh off the boat coming to America, were really criticized. A lot of the stereotypes that came out, that they were stupid or they smell bad, those types of things were common throughout FOB. And also in Golden Child, the women, when the husband returned from the West, I believe he was the Philippines, they were introduced with Western culture and modern culture, and they're kind of, forced to make this decision to turn their backs on the traditional culture that they all loved, in order to keep their husband, who wanted to become more westernized, adapt in Christianity, be more modern. In and Butterfly, it was there was the same theme of East versus West, but in this one it's a little bit different because it seems like in the other books we read, FOB and Golden Child, the West was the more desired culture, and in this case, it was a Western person desiring the Eastern culture. Renee Gallimard's wife was a Western woman. They're both from France. She is kind of, she's a strong woman. She's at times, it almost seems like she demasculizes Renee. As I said before in the beginning of the play, he's very weak. Nobody ever expects much of him. Nobody really thinks that he's going to succeed. But as he kind of captures his Butterfly, the Eastern woman who's very submissive and modest, and subservient, she even calls herself Renee's slave at one point, he gets this newfound confidence, and he becomes more aggressive, and his peers respect him more. So I thought that was kind of interesting, the difference between the two, especially coming from one author, and different take on things, I suppose. And also there's the modern, I kind of thought it was funny, with there's the theme of fantasy versus reality, and I thought about the traditional versus modern, all within the character of Song Ling, the cross-dressing opera singer, who throughout the play was represented as this very submissive, traditional Chinese woman, when in fact is a modern homosexual man. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Anyways, that concludes my presentation. I want to thank you for the class, and I hope you have a great summer.